Have you ever been scrolling through your feed and just paused and wondered about all the people who aren't posting? In a world that's basically screaming at us to share everything all the time, there's this really fascinating psychology behind the choice to stay quiet. So let's get into it and explore the hidden strength of digital silence.
And this idea right here, this really flips the whole script, doesn't it? It suggests that not posting isn't about feeling insecure. It's the total opposite. It's a kind of self-respect that's so solid, it just doesn't need a round of applause from the internet. It's a pretty powerful way to start thinking about online silence.
So, this is the big question we're tackling today. I mean, there's constant pressure to broadcast everything, right? Our wins, our lunch, our every random thought. So what's really going on in our heads when we decide to just observe instead of putting on a show? We're going to unpack the 3 key psychological reasons behind that choice.
Okay, our first stop is all about understanding the engine that makes us go. It really all comes down to one fundamental question. Are you doing it for them, or are you doing it for you?
This is what psychologists call intrinsic motivation. Basically, it's the urge to do something just because you, personally, find it rewarding. Think about getting lost in a good book just for the love of the story, not to write a report on it, or, going for a hike just to breathe the fresh air. The reward is the experience.
And this is where the contrast becomes super clear. On one side, you've got actions that are all about getting something back from the outside world. Likes, comments, shares. That's extrinsic motivation. But on the other side, you've got intrinsic motivation, where the beautiful sunset you saw, or that amazing meal you ate, that was the reward. You don't actually need to post a picture for it to count.
And here's the most important part of this whole idea. For people who run on intrinsic motivation, their self-worth isn't tied to a number that goes up and down on a screen. The validation doesn't come from performing your life. It comes from actually living it.
So if your motivation is coming from the inside, where does that lead us? Well, it shifts the whole conversation from why you do things to who you are. How solid is your sense of self when nobody's liking or commenting?
This brings us to this really interesting idea called self-concept clarity. It sounds complicated, but it's not. It's just about how well you know who you are, without anyone else's input. When your beliefs about yourself are clear and stable, you've got this strong anchor inside you.
So here's what that looks like in the real world. Someone with high self-concept clarity, they don't need a gym selfie to feel like they're fit. They don't need a picture from Paris to feel adventurous. They just are. But if someone has low clarity, that sense of self can feel a little shaky, And they might look to social media to get that feedback that helps them feel defined and whole.
When you boil it all down, it's this simple. If you're secure in who you are, you don't really feel the need to put out a press release about it. Your life speaks for itself.
Okay, so we've got internal motivation and we have a strong sense of self. But there's usually one more mental hurdle to clear, that nagging fear that everybody is watching and, more importantly, judging. This is called the spotlight effect. It's that feeling that if you go quiet online, everyone's going to notice and wonder what's wrong. So we tend to imagine this giant, glaring spotlight on our social media page, or on the lack of it. But the reality? It's much, much smaller. It's more like a little phone flashlight flickering in the corner. The truth is, most people are way too busy worrying about the spotlight on them to even notice if yours is on or off. And that's the punchline, right? It is so freeing when you finally realize you're not actually the main character in everybody else's movie. All that pressure to perform just melts away when you get that the audience is mostly just focused on their own lines.
So what happens when we put all of these pieces together? Well, we get a completely new way of looking at silence. It stops being an absence of something and starts being the presence of something else entirely.
This is what we can call quiet power. It's this powerful mix of being driven by your own inner satisfaction, being totally secure in who you are, and being free from that illusion that everyone is watching your every move. See, these aren't weaknesses. They're actually psychological superpowers. And this is the real takeaway. Choosing not to post isn't about being passive or just opting out of the conversation. It's about actively opting in, into a more present life, into a deeper understanding of yourself, and into a kind of power that's stable, that's internal, and that is 100% yours. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. When you tune out all that noise, all that need for validation and the pressure to perform, what do you actually start to hear? Is it your own thoughts, your own creativity,
The world right in front of you? If you're not posting for applause, what deeper, more meaningful things are you listening for instead?